Where the Birds Never Sing is a non-fiction book written by Jack Sacco and published in 2004. The book provides a first-person account of the author's father's experiences during World War II, spanning from his induction into the army to the liberation of the concentration camp at Dachau in 1945. Nominated for the 2004 Pulitzer Prize, the book delves into the profound events and emotions surrounding the war. The narrative begins with a poignant flash-forward as Jack Sacco, the author's father, and his unit liberate what they initially believe to be a typical prisoner-of-war camp at Dachau. However, upon entering the lightly defended camp, they quickly realize that something is drastically different. Sacco struggles to comprehend the harrowing sights before him. The story then transports readers back to 1942 in Birmingham, Alabama, where an 18-year-old Sacco resides on his family's farm. Reflecting on their peaceful lives as immigrants from Sicily, Sacco recounts the challenges they face, including the discrimination they endure due to their Italian heritage. One afternoon, after a day of toiling in the fields, Joe receives his draft notice. His grandfather bestows upon him a crucifix as a protective symbol. Accompanied by his father, Joe heads to the bus station, admitting his fear of the unknown. It is during this journey that he meets Tony Palumbo, another draftee, and an instant friendship forms between them. Arriving at Fort McClellan, Joe and Tony encounter Sergeant Turner, who attempts a trick to assert authority over them. However, having been warned by the bus driver not to follow orders until they are officially sworn in, the draftees refuse Turner's command to pick up trash, foiling his ploy. Joe is subsequently transferred to different training camps until he eventually lands at Camp Maxey in Paris, Texas, where he is assigned to the Signal Corps. It is here that he meets a fellow soldier named Everett. While engaged in basic training, Joe receives news of his grandfather's passing, intensifying his homesickness. Despite this longing for home, he takes his service to his country with utmost seriousness. During training exercises involving setting up poles and stringing wire, Joe suffers a serious injury after a fall, further impacting his journey. After Joe's injury, Everett attempts to secure an exemption from further service, but his efforts prove fruitless. Joe undergoes various stages of training, encountering different men along the way, including Tex, Silverman, and Chandler, who become his close friends. Initially, there is tension fueled by racial and territorial animosity, and Joe becomes the target of anti-Italian sentiments and racist remarks. However, as their deployment date approaches, Joe observes a shift in the men's behavior. The biased attacks subside, and a sense of unity emerges among them. During Christmas in 1943, they spend time in New York City with Silverman's fiancée. Soon after, Joe and his unit are shipped out to Ireland, with Joe being one of the few who does not suffer from violent seasickness during the journey. They continue training and preparing for the monumental D-Day invasion of Normandy, forging deep bonds of friendship along the way. They are eventually relocated to Oxford and volunteer in hospitals, providing them with a glimpse of the horrors of war. It is during this time that they hear a profanity-laden speech by General George S. Patton, which serves as an inspiration for them to embody the soldiers he envisions. Joe describes his first experiences of combat in vivid and distressing detail, witnessing the chaotic scenes of death surrounding him. Miraculously, Joe emerges from the invasion unscathed, yet he is bewildered by the seeming lack of purpose behind many of the deaths he witnesses. Tragedy strikes when Tex receives news of his son's death but is denied permission to return home. In a further devastating blow, Tex himself loses a leg in combat. As part of the Allied invasion, Joe and his unit push deeper into Europe. Assigned to the Signal Battalion, their task involves stringing communication wires as the troops advance through France. During the harsh winter, Joe and his comrades find shelter with a French family in a rural area, forging a bond with the local community. One fateful night, a cow gives birth, and a neighboring girl named Monique arrives to assist with the newborn calf. Joe is immediately captivated by her presence. As days pass, Joe and Monique spend an increasing amount of time together, forming a deep bond and falling in love. However, their budding romance is abruptly interrupted when Joe's unit receives orders to advance, forcing him to leave Monique behind. As they push further into Germany, they witness the devastating scale of destruction and bombings, which eventually subside. Tragedy strikes when Chandler is killed by a German tank during their intense street-by-street combat in a German city. Silverman also falls victim to a fatal gunshot. In April 1945, Sacco and his unit reach the haunting grounds of Dachau. The sight that greets them is beyond comprehension: railroad cars filled with lifeless bodies and surviving prisoners who resemble mere skeletons due to their severe malnourishment. Joe bears witness to the chilling sight of the crematory, belching out ash from the countless lives consumed by the horrors of the camp. Additionally, he observes American soldiers taking immediate, ruthless action by executing Nazi guards on the spot. The overwhelming darkness leaves Joe numb, as he witnesses prisoners taking revenge by beating a guard to death, unable to summon any emotions. After the war, Joe returns home, only to discover that he could have been exempted from the draft. Throughout his time away, he maintains whatever connection he can with Monique, but upon his return to France, he is devastated to learn that she suffered a tragic fate. Monique was raped and murdered by German soldiers shortly after Joe's departure, leaving him to grapple with an immense sense of loss and grief. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.